Battlefield 5 is in desperate need of help, and many people recently have been saying that BF5 needs an Operation Health, a patch that will focus on fixing the bugs in the game and getting it to a point where the actual content updates are meaningful and people can enjoy what is there for them to play. It feels as if we've been playing in a beta state or even alpha state for 8 months now, and at this point it is glaringly obvious that the developers at DICE are either understaffed, under-equipped, or lacking the necessary time to fix this game. I'm sure the developers are capable, but with everything piling up against them and each update taking steps in the wrong direction, I do feel as if we're past the tipping point. Each upcoming update will no doubt fail to address some of the major issues that we've faced since launch, whilst bringing their own problems along too, adding to this already monumental task. There have been loads of memes passed around on Reddit, and YouTubers such as JackFrags and Westy have focused on the state of Battlefield 5 and the fact that it's going downhill. But I think we can all agree that it's not past saving. Battlefield 4 was in a terrible state when it launched and stayed that way for quite some time before DICE LA, or DICE as a whole, sorted the game out and made it very playable and very enjoyable. I'm not saying the same thing will happen with Battlefield 5, and we're certainly not looking at the same issue like for like. It's not a mirror image, but if history is anything to go by, the game can be saved and we can be at a point where Battlefield 5 could be a decent game. Now, one way that this could be approached, and this again has been talked about quite a lot on social media, is the idea of a Rainbow Six Siege style Operation Health update or set of patches. Now, for anyone that doesn't know what that was, I'll give you a bit of a history lesson. Back in 2017, Rainbow Six Siege implemented Operation Health, a patch designed to remove the worst bugs and problems in the game, giving them a solid platform to build on into the future. Whilst Battlefield 5 is not operating as a game that plans to be supported much past the usual 2 years we're used to, whilst Rainbow Six Siege is obviously a larger project, having a patch or period of time solely focused on fixing some of the main game-breaking bugs we experience on a daily basis makes a lot of sense. Ubisoft had 3 main goals to achieve in Operation Health. Firstly, technological improvements, looking at better servers, improved hit registration, better matchmaking, and other server-based features. Secondly, a higher standard of quality control with test servers and a rollback feature in the case of poorly implemented patches. Thirdly, bug fixes. The top bugs reported by the community would be addressed immediately and fixed as a priority in order to get the game into a playable state. They could then build on that, and these solid foundations would provide exactly that, foundations to build a better game. That sounds good. This acted as a really influential turning point for Rainbow Six Siege, and the game went from strength to strength, becoming a juggernaut in the gaming world. Will Battlefield 5 ever do the same? No, probably not. But what it could do is it could act as a turning point for the franchise as a whole. Imagine Battlefield 5 with these bugs removed, and then a future Battlefield game having a system in place of a similar ilk that addresses problems far sooner with regular, dedicated patches focusing on the health of the game. I thought one of the major reasons for having a live service was the regular updates, but if Battlefield 5 is anything to go by, I think it's proved otherwise. Yes, BF5 is probably the worst example of a well-executed live service, but considering Premium didn't have half the issues we're experiencing now, maybe going back to what is tried and tested isn't the worst idea, or maybe DICE need a few games in order to iron out the problems with a live service and actually get it to a state where we can enjoy a game whilst receiving regular patches to fix bugs and of course the content updates. So, like many other people, I do propose a similar fix. Operation Health, or whatever you want to call it, could be a good idea if it was brought to Battlefield 5. The idea behind the patch or sets of updates would bring a selection of fixes to the game. We'd also have to implement a CTE or community test environment that we've seen in previous Battlefield games, because dumping a patch straight into the main build of Battlefield has clearly not worked so far and brings far too many bugs into an already unsteady experience. This, however, has already been met with some negative news from Jeff Braddock, the community manager for North America, as he recently confirmed we would never see a Battlefield 5 CTE due to the way the game's built. But hey, we can all dream, and maybe even internal testing could be a good thing for the game, or indeed improving that internal testing and improving the quality control. If we did get some significant upgrades in the quality control and patches, what bugs would I focus on? Well, that's the easy part. Just off the top of my head, I'd take a look at the following. Fix bad server performance. This has plagued Battlefield 5 for ages, and the recent update has certainly made the servers worse. Implement a proper anti-cheat. I've covered this again, and we'll be making another cheating video in the future because it's just insane in Battlefield 5 at the minute. Other games have better anti-cheat than BF5. Why can't we have it too? Sort out the stuttering and terrible in-game performance. The recent patch for the Chapter 4 patch broke the game completely on Xbox, and on top of that you've got stuttering and terrible in-game performance all across the other platforms. Fix invisible soldiers, fix the spawning issues, fix the customization in-game, and bring in the stuff we've been promised since the beginning of the game. It's not exactly a bug, but I suppose you could say that it links into the invisible soldiers and just the general problems with cosmetics, company coins and boins across the board. Graphical glitches like pixelated trees have been in the game since launch. Battlefield is known for being a good looking game, and even that's at risk currently. Map-specific bugs, such as the vaulting in Al Sundan, or even the fact that Al Sundan doesn't have conquest yet, these need to be sorted immediately. Tank scope, black screens and freezes, dusting on planes, terrible hit reg in planes and on planes in general, broken assignments and the stuttering caused from assignments. The hotfix that we've recently had, as I mentioned, broke the game for the Xbox One audience. This is a real example of why we should test the updates before deploying them, because if your game just breaks on a certain platform, it's proof that you haven't tested it properly at all. Server balance is awful, no team switching, and also joining on friends can be broken, locking you in squads and then being unable to spawn at all. The menus are still appalling, and the fact you can't even update your weapon specializations in-game if you've just unlocked them is really stupid, and weapon assignments are so unbelievably stupid I can't even comment on them. They're designed by people that clearly don't play multiplayer games. Removing limited time modes and then dropping them back in is very annoying. How can you have a mode that people really enjoy like Grind or Rush in a game that is really struggling with player retention and then remove those modes? It just doesn't make any sense at all. And this list could of course go on. And in fact, I will say this, I made a video a few months ago listing 200 things wrong with Battlefield 5, and I bet you I could make another one without breaking a sweat. The state of Battlefield 5 is unacceptable, and it's undoubtedly having a negative impact on the franchise as a whole. So assuming we have a CTE and DICE focus on fixing the bugs or more quality control or whatever, I personally think Battlefield 5 could make a turn, but at this point, each patch seems to be taking us in the wrong direction. So you've probably seen in the background that I've been showcasing some bugs and problems in the game that I've experienced since the patch, but there's also a few things on Reddit that I think are worth taking a look at. This first post takes a look at the game modes that have been removed since the game came out, and we are in fact looking at less content since release in the game, which is pretty crazy to think. Also, we've got the leaks coming from Temporal, or however you pronounce his name. I'm not so much against leaking content because people want to see what's upcoming. I think it just proves that DICE, on the one hand, can't really stop this from happening and really need to improve that. You shouldn't be able to data mine all of the upcoming content, whether it's coming to the game or not, because some stuff that we're seeing will never come to Battlefield 5, and that's just setting everybody up for disappointment. And on the other hand, they should actually be releasing this stuff themselves. They should be taking the initiative and almost doing this officially, just to get the hype up and a bit of good faith within the community. A few other memes have been pretty well liked on Reddit, and I think they do reflect what we're seeing and what everybody's thinking. But for the most part, I can say this. The recent problems in Battlefield are really causing a divide in the community, but more importantly, and really more of a problem, is the fact that they are causing the community to leave and go and play other games. Even Westy, and I know Jack Frags is usually quite good with this sort of stuff, but Westy tends to always be quite optimistic with this, and he'll look at a glass half full and try and find a positive thing in every patch, which I think is great as long as you know what you're getting from him. But recently, even he's at a point where he doesn't see any future for Battlefield 5 with the patches doing what they're doing. And as he said, the trust is almost gone, and it will be extremely hard to regain that trust. So forgetting about Battlefield 5 and the fact the game may never be in a proper playable state, we're really doing damage to the next game, and that's not good at all. As Westy says, what can we do to help? If DICE asked us to do something, I'm sure everybody would club together and do it, but the fact of the matter is, the game is getting worse, and I don't see any hope for it getting sorted unless DICE really up that quality control, because patches that are meant to fix things are now coming in and breaking more than they are fixing, and that's happened very rarely in Battlefield, and now we're seeing it consistently in BF5, so something does need to change significantly. As I mentioned before, we've seen broken Battlefield games in the past with Battlefield 4, and they have been fixed, so there is hope for it to be sorted. But if we continue on this trajectory, and if DICE don't start to change things within their studio, especially when it comes to Battlefield, there's no hope for it really. And that's just sad to think about. I am still playing Battlefield 5 from time to time, and I am having a bit of fun with it, but I'm sort of trying to see past the bugs, and I'm really finding it difficult at this point. So for anyone who's not a full-on Battlefield fan and just plays it here and there, they've probably put the game down. So we're kind of limiting the community that way, and player numbers will be struggling. Let me know what you think of this in the comments down below. I'm sure all of you have your own issues and problems that you want to talk about and get heard. And maybe I'll take a look back to Battlefield 4 in the next few videos and go and play some of the better Battlefield games instead of focusing on all this negative stuff. Thanks for watching. Hopefully DICE can turn things around soon, and I'll catch you in the next video.